Hi, love. It's Arylo here, and I thought I would stop by today to talk to you about self-love. Self-love is one of those things that I think most of us finally realize is a good idea, but it's so vast and so big and so esoteric. It's really hard to tell if you're lacking self-love, and if you're lacking self-love, what the impact is that it's having in your life. It's so much easier to see how maybe your relationships aren't working, or how your money's not where you'd like it to be, or how your happiness level isn't where it needs to be, or how your career isn't what you want, or how your emotional health isn't what you want. And we oftentimes just look at that surface level without getting deeper to the root of what's actually happening. And I'm in the midst right now of starting every year at the beginning of February, end of February, beginning of March. We start a 12-month full year of self-love. It's called the Love Club, where we go through the 11 types of self-love, one by one: self-compassion, self-care, self-empowerment, and we practice it and we deepen it and we see how it's actually impacting our lives. It's one of those things that I commit myself to every year because, 15 years ago when I realized I didn't love myself and I didn't even know what it was, I didn't know how to actually do it. And I didn't know how to actually connect what wasn't working in my life or what I desired in my life that wasn't happening with a lack of self-love to give me some things to actually be tangible about. And so as we're getting ready to start this year of self-love, I wanted to stop by and share with you some things that are really important to know about self-love that might help you see where you're lacking self-love and how that's actually impacting some of the other things in your life, like relationships and money and career. I oftentimes think of self-love as the foundation of our existence. It's like self-love and our spiritual connection. Those are our foundations of our homes, if you will. And the rooms in our house, our relationships, our careers, our wealth, our health, our happiness, those are all based on that foundation. And so if you don't have a strong self-love foundation, you don't have a strong spiritual foundation, then the rest of the stuff is rocky. And for me, what's really been helpful is to be able to assess and see, oh, that's actually connected to a lack of self-love because it's a lack of this kind of self-love. So if you didn't know already, there are 11 types of self-love. There is self-awareness, there's self-acceptance, there's self-care, there's self-compassion and forgiveness, there's self-esteem, there's self-empowerment, there is self-expression, there is self-honor and respect, there's self-trust, and there is self-pleasure, and there is self-worth. Those are the 11 types of self-love. And so I thought what we would do today is just take a moment to kind of check in with yourself. I'm going to give you a little pulse check here to see what kinds of self-love might be weak and how they might be affecting your life. I actually just got back yesterday. I was at the acupuncturist because I went to go have some blood work done, and there were some things that were wonky in my blood work that I needed to work on. And I went and sat with a Western doctor, and the Western doctor just diagnosed me and said, you have this, and take this drug and you will now be cured, and then, by the way, you got to take the drug for the rest of your life. And I'm like, that doesn't really work for me. Then I am just masking the root and I'm treating the symptom. And so I do a lot of work with acupuncture for my own physical health. And so I went and saw my acupuncturist healer, and we talked about the root of what was actually underneath why the physical symptoms were appearing. And I sat with my spiritual mentor, and we talked about the root of why these physical symptoms were showing up. And so instead of just dealing at the symptom level, I'm getting to the root of it. And self-love is that same thing. Yeah, it's good to focus on, the practical pieces about money and relationship and health and happiness. But if you really want to make lasting shifts, you want to get into the root of your self-love and the root of your connection to spirit. So does that make sense? Okay, great. So let's just take a pulse check here together to get an idea of where some things might be connected to self-love, where the root of self-love might be what's actually, or the lack of self-love might be what's going on for you, or maybe even if it's strong, how that could be connected to why you're actually feeling good in this area of your life. Okay, so let's check in on where you might have some lack of self-love or weak self-love. And I'm going to share, I actually have identified 50 different signs of a weak self-love, which are in the Madly in Love with Me book, but I'm not going to go through all those with you right now. And I actually put 12 up here on my blog page so that you can actually see the signs. But we're just going to check in on 7. So you can even grab a little piece of paper or a pen or just pause by each one and say yes or no, yes or no. And I'll share with you also just like which of the branches of self-love, the types of self-love, it's an indication that you are lacking self-love. Every one of these signs, which are signs of a weak self-love, can be correlated to some of the different 11 branches of self-love, which is why we spend a whole year, every year, going deeper in all the different branches. Okay, you ready? Sign number 1 that you are lacking self-love is that you feel overwhelmed and stressed out, and you put a lot of pressure on yourself to do more, to be more, and you have a hard time just celebrating who you are and resting and relaxing. You just find yourself in overwhelm and stress a lot. This is a sign of weak self-love, especially in the area of self-care and especially in the area of self-worth. Self-care being that you make sure that you get what you need on all accounts, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and self-worth being that you're actually valuing yourself on the inside versus on the outside. So many people, we overgive, we overdo, we overwork, all signs of a lack of self-love. So is that one for you? Yes or no? 2, you find yourself in unhealthy or unhappy relationships. That could be romantic, friendships, peer, family, relatives. You find yourself either stuck in them or you keep repeating them, you can't leave them, or maybe you can't even create the ones that you want. This is another sign of a lack of self-love, specifically about self-honor and self-respect. Self-honor being that you treat yourself as sacred, self-respect being that you actually truly respect yourself. It's also a sign of weak self-trust and self-honesty. So many people don't have the relationships they want because when it comes to self-love, they're weak in self-honesty and weak in self-trust. And it's hard sometimes to be honest in our relationships, but self-honesty is absolutely one of the most important parts of self-love. So that's sign number 2. Is that something that's showing up for you? Okay, sign number 3. You play small, you stay stuck in your job, you don't reach your full potential. Maybe you just kind of, go with the flow and you don't really know who you are or what you want, or you just can't actually give yourself permission to go be who you really are. You're just stuck in this, in your job and in your career and who you express yourself as. This is a lack of self-love. It's a lack of self-love. It's a lack of self-expression. You're not being fully and freely who you are. It's a lack of self-empowerment, which is about being able to go for your dreams and live your life on your terms, no matter what. It's often a sign of a lack of self-trust and really listening to that inner wisdom. And it's oftentimes a sign of lack of self-esteem. Self-doubt is a lack of self-esteem almost always because you're not actually valuing your gifts and who you are. So is that showing up for you? The root, lack of self-love. Okay, sign number 4. You compare yourself, you judge yourself, you criticize yourself. That's how you've been motivating yourself. Your head is full of negative self-talk. You're comparing yourself, criticizing yourself. This is a lack of self-love. You're lacking self-compassion, the ability to be kind, gentle, and caring with yourself. And you're likely also lacking self-acceptance, which is loving who you are, acknowledging yourself, appreciating yourself, just really loving you. This is such a big one, especially for women. I see this over and over and over and over again. This is a lack of self-love. So number 5 is you're settling. You're settling anywhere in your life. It could be your relationships, it could be your body, it could be your wealth, it could be your health, it could be your career. So when you are settling, you are not honoring yourself. And usually when you're settling, there's a lack of self-trust, a lack of self-honor, a lack of self-empowerment, a lack of self-expression, and a lack of self-worth. I mean, there's a lot that goes into that. So many of the branches. So is settling showing up? Lack of self-love. Number 6, you get anxious. You let fear drive your choices. You obsess about things like blame and shame, and obsessive thinking get in here. That's you choosing fear over love. That's you allowing those deeper energies, those like not deeper, but those heavier energies to come in. That is also a lack of self-love. And the last one that I'll share with you right now, again, there's 12 total and I'm sharing with you on the page. There's 50 in the actual Madly in Love with Me book. And when we go through the full year, we touch on all of these because we're growing and strengthening the branches. So another one is that you feel unlovable. You feel unlovable, you feel unloved, you feel unworthy, you feel like a fraud, you feel inferior somehow. This weak self-worth, weak self-honor, weak self-esteem, and weak self-expression. And also probably weak self-acceptance with a little dash of weak self-compassion. So if any of these signs are showing up for you, love, it's okay. You know, we're all on this path of self-love. I've been on it for 15 years. This is the 4th year that we are doing the Love Club, where we go branch by branch every year, hundreds of people all around the world. Every year we focus on one branch each month, and I learn more about self-compassion. I go deeper in self-care. I strengthen my self-esteem. I strengthen my self-empowerment. And I teach this stuff. I'm the queen of self-love, right? And so my invitation to you, love, is to take a look at where in your life, your relationships, your job, your career, your body, your health, your any of those things aren't where you'd like them to be. And to really feel into how you have the power by choosing self-love, by growing your self-love, by understanding these different types of self-love and knowing how to give them to you, to actually make the shifts at a foundational level and not just at the surface level. When you do the surface and you do the foundation, that's when you make major shifts and elevations that stick. And so you're absolutely invited to join us for a year of self-love. It is one of the most powerful things I know I've done for myself, and I just love holding that space and that container for people all over the world, because I know the container really matters. I know when you say yes to something for 12 months. I know when you say yes to being in a community. I say yes to actually staying committed to yourself. This actually makes the change. Without the container, we just kind of get lost in the busyness of life. And that's why every year I dedicate a year to doing this with people in a very affordable, very accessible way that fits into your life so that you don't have to have another to-do. This actually comes into your life to support you and then impacts all those different parts of your life, like we were talking about, the relationships, the money, the health, the wealth, all of those things, the career. So check it out at jointheloveclub.com. We start on March 6th, and come for a year. And if you don't want to come for a year, try it out for a couple months. But do join us and commit to yourself for a year of self-love. It really is, along with our spiritual connection, the foundation for everything. And when you have the power of your own love, you have the power to do anything. Sending you much love.